You're listening to episode number 29 of the Mind Body Masters podcast. And this podcast episode is titled 4 Reasons Why Pain Comes Back. So if you are a manual therapist, a healthcare provider, and you are someone who has clients who are dealing with pain, particularly pain that's persistent, chronic, or comes back again and again, this podcast episode is going to be really enlightening for you. So be sure to stay tuned. Welcome to the Mind Body Masters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jake Curry, chiropractor, mind body expert, and the creator of Mind Body Therapy and the NeuroShift. This podcast is for health and wellness professionals who want to become exceptional at their craft. Here I will help you master the emotional origins of pain and chronic disease so you can get life-changing results for your clients and grow your healthcare business from the inside out. So if you're ready to discover a modern, holistic approach to healthcare that will benefit even your most complex clients, set you apart with a unique point of difference, increase demand for your services, and help you offer virtual consultations, then this podcast is for you. So stay tuned. Okay, so as I said there in the intro, this episode is going to be really catered for healthcare professionals, manual therapists such as chiros, osteos, physios, massage therapists, and any other alternative healthcare practitioners or health coaches who have clients who are dealing with any kind of chronic pain, persistent injuries, or symptoms that keep coming back again and again. Okay, so and in today's episode, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be looking at the 4 reasons why pain keeps coming back. So the goal of this episode is to start getting you to think a little bit differently about pain and how you treat it, so that you can actually start to get some incredible outcomes for your people. So you can actually help the people who have been in persistent chronic pain for a long period of time get well, get out of pain and get their lives back, because when you're able to do that, not only is it incredibly fulfilling as a practitioner, but it also helps to grow your business. Obviously, the more results that you get, particularly for people who've spent thousands of dollars elsewhere, worked with all kinds of practitioners and are still struggling with pain, this can be life-changing for them and also for you. So before we get into it, let's just look at some of the common things that we see. Now, back when I was running my chiropractic practice, no matter what modality you use, if you're a chiro or a physio or a massage therapist, no doubt you help a lot of people, right? Which is awesome. And I love all alternative healthcare providers. But what I found as a chiropractor is that I would have a subset of people who just never got better no matter what I did, right? So they'd go through a course of treatment. By all accounts, their results were looking better, their tests were testing better, their posture had improved, their mobility had improved, and yet they were still in pain. And this was incredibly frustrating for me as a practitioner, because I really wanted to help people. I was invested in their outcomes, and as well, I knew that if I was able to help people get results, it's going to naturally help my business to grow. So these patients really frustrated me, and I would try all kinds of different things to help them. And I guess in a lot of ways, those patients who never got better when I was running my chiropractic practice, I owe you a big thank you, because you guys got me into this work and into this new way of thinking about pain. So often the reason being, the number one reason why people's pain keeps coming back is usually because the treatments that we are providing aren't actually addressing the root cause of their issue. Okay, so to give you a little analogy, imagine you've got a stone in your shoe, and every step that you take, that's causing irritation, pain, inflammation, all kinds of things. You can treat the injury itself. You can put some cream on it. You can rub it. You can change shoes. You can put orthotics in. But if you don't remove the stone out of that shoe, well, then the person's symptoms are going to keep coming back again and again and again and again and again. And so this might look like they just never respond to treatment. Maybe you've got patients in pain who just never respond. So they don't get better no matter what you do. There's no signs of improvement at all. That's a common presentation. But the second presentation is where you have someone and maybe you do some treatment of whatever you do, and they get a bit better, and they're like, oh, that feels so much better, thank you. They leave your office, but 2 weeks later, a week later, a month later, 3 months later, they're coming back to you and going, oh, that neck pain that I had, Yeah, it was good for a few days after the last treatment, but now it's back. Okay, so we're going to be diving into how we help those two subcategories of people. The people who are dealing with like chronic, persistent pain that just never seems to respond to any treatment. And as well, often those people have tried countless modalities, countless practitioners, and they've spent thousands of dollars along the way. And the second group is that group who might have what looks like a pretty standard injury or a standard pain pattern. It responds to treatment, it does get better, but then the symptoms always come back again and again and again. Okay, so learning these 4 things is going to be crucial to help you improve your skills as a practitioner and to help more people. Okay, so if that sounds like something you want to, you want to help more people, you want to get better patient results, client results, and you want to be seen as an expert in treating these kind of mystery chronic pain cases, well, what we're going to cover today is going to be absolutely awesome for you. So let's jump right into it. The 4 reasons why your patients or your clients' pain keeps coming back again and again. So number 1 is, like the stone in the shoe analogy, you might be treating all the physical symptoms, the physical manifestations of pain, but you're not actually addressing the root cause. And oftentimes for these people, there might be an emotional origin, an emotional or stress origin. Okay, and so what this means is that if there is a stress cause or an emotional origin to this, or what we call an emotional or a biological conflict in the wonderful world of German medicine, if you're not addressing that, well then these symptoms are going to keep coming back again and again. And so I won't get into too much detail about how this works, but what we now know is that when people experience unexpected stressful events, and there's a particular group of them depending on what type of pain your client is experiencing, these emotional stressful events actually cause real physiological changes in the body. They cause muscle micro tears, they cause inflammation, they cause swelling. And if you're not addressing these things, those symptoms are going to continue to come back again and again. So this is one of the key things that I teach, and learning how to ask the right questions of your clients and learning how to find those specific emotional origins of musculoskeletal pain is such a game changer when it comes to helping your clients get results. So if you want to learn more about that, I've got a free guide for you. In that guide, there is a list of all of the different musculoskeletal emotional origins according to German medicine. So for shoulder pain, for example, it's what we call a relationship self-evaluation. So we list that out, and in there, there's a series of questions that you can ask. So for every single part of the body, there's different types of conflicts and different types of questions that you can start to ask your clients. Okay, so this would be the first step. Learning to address this is crucial. And by the way, it doesn't need to be a big deal, right? A lot of practitioners are going, oh, I don't want to necessarily work with the emotional side of things. Like, I don't want to sit with patients and talk about all their problems. And the cool thing is you don't need to. You just need to learn to ask the right questions. And when you can ask the right questions of your clients, hey, how do you feel about X, Y, Z? And they answer, well, then you can start to see changes right away. And oftentimes, you don't even need to go into all the details of the stresses that people are dealing with. You can just say something along the lines of, hey, what we know is that if you've got this reoccurring shoulder issue, it can be linked with something that we call a relationship self-evaluation. Now, a relationship self-evaluation is where you feel as though you've let someone down. You feel like you've done wrong by something. When your pain started 6 months ago, what was going on in your life? Was there anything that happened that was unexpected that caught you off guard where you felt like you let someone down? And then as a practitioner, you shut up. You either let the person talk and let the person's subconscious mind start to dig and find these events. And often as well, guys, they're not huge. Like, people often go, I don't want to deal with this stuff here because I don't want to open a can of worms with my clients. I don't want to deal with all of their stuff. But what I've found over the years is that these emotional events that trigger pain don't have to be big. They can be run-of-the-mill, everyday stressors. And all you need to do is just help people become aware of what they are to start breaking the cycle. Because when people have an emotional origin to their pain, anytime that they are reminded of that, anytime they think about that, anytime a similar situation arises, it's going to re-trigger that emotional origin, and their pain is going to just come back again and again. It's going to flare up every single time they are being re-triggered. Okay, so it's not that difficult. You just need to learn how to ask the right questions. And that guide on our website, if you go to mindbodymasters.com/guide, there's a free guide there for healthcare professionals and practitioners, which teaches you how to ask the right questions, and it outlines the various conflicts and emotional origins involved for each specific body type. Okay, so again, really easy, just learning to ask the right questions and learning to start looking at stress-based causes for pain is one of the first and probably the most important steps when it comes to helping your clients get incredible results, particularly those clients who've tried everything and they're still in pain, and particularly the clients who have these symptoms that keep coming back again and again. Okay, I might do another podcast episode on how and why pain comes back and why it resurfaces all the time. Okay, so let's get into the second reason now. The second reason is really tied in with a lot of chronic pain as well, and this is a phenomenon known as central sensitization. Central sensitization. Okay, so if you're watching me on this, and if I ever make spelling mistakes, just roll with me. I'm really good at helping people understand the emotional origins of disease and that kind of thing. My spelling and grammar isn't perfect. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're seeing me write this out, and if I've spelt that incorrectly, I don't think I have, but hey. So central sensitization is this incredible phenomenon. And what this is this is a really key thing to understand for your clients, is that what can happen with central sensitization is people might have experienced an actual injury. So let's just say you were at the gym and you did a deadlift and you hurt your lower back. What happens in that is you have a structural injury. You might have torn some muscles, you might have ruptured a disc or something along those lines. What happens with central sensitization is that tissue damage will cause what we call first order neurons to fire from the periphery into the spinal cord, into the central nervous system. And when there's enough excitation of these neurons, it's going to fire these second order neurons. These second order neurons run from the spinal cord, they run up through the spine, and eventually they synapse in the sensory cortex of the brain. And when that synapse occurs, what we experience is we get this signal of pain. Our brain is going, ouch, that hurts, pain, 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 pain. Now, put it really simply and to put it really plainly, central sensitization occurs when that initial injury has healed and there's no longer the first order neurons firing into the central nervous system, but the second order neuron, the neuron from the spinal cord into the brain, continues to fire. It continues to send signals of danger, 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 pain, 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 pain. And so central sensitization is this phenomenon when the nervous system becomes essentially sensitized or really familiar with pain. And so here, you can do all the structural treatments you like. You can do adjustments, you can do rehab exercises, you can do massage, you can do dry needling, you can do all kinds of things. But if you're not actually addressing this phenomenon of central sensitization, I might actually do a more in-depth video on this and how it works in terms of the pathways involved, which could be a really good one. So let me know if you'd like to see that, because I can do a really cool training on that for you. But if you're not addressing this nervous system side of pain and persistent injuries and chronic pain, well, then no amount of structural work, no amount of physical therapies will actually move the needle for your client. So helping the client, there's some very particular strategies that we use to down-regulate the nervous system, to calm the nervous system, and to help the brain realize that initial injury is over. Okay, so this is just a cycle that clients need to break, and this is really based around not any structural treatment, but brain and nervous system treatment. Okay, so this is a key factor here. Okay, so again, I think I will do another one on that because that's a really fun topic. For anyone who's a bit of an anatomy nerd, a bit of a neuroanatomy nerd, come and join me. I'll do one of those, a training on that shortly, and you and I can nerd out together on the neurophysiology of pain, which will be fun. All right, so let's get into reason number 3. And reason number 3 ties into the first 2 reasons really nicely, is the client has repeated lifestyle stress. So what we know is that sometimes pain can be caused not through any structural change, not through a specific injury. Oftentimes patients will have, or clients, I'll use those words interchangeably by the way, will have their pain start for no apparent reason. Now, this is a key sign that there is an emotional origin, and central sensitization is also coming into play. So if you've got clients who just go, one day I just all of a sudden started to get raging sciatica, or all of a sudden my knee just blew out and started to get really swollen. I didn't do anything to it. If you have clients that are dealing with those kind of unexplained or mystery types of pain, usually the first 2 categories here, emotional origins and central sensitization, are the most important things to address. And so the third reason ties into those 2. If the client has repeated lifestyle stress or like ongoing stress in their life, these can feed into the first 2 reasons. So for example, imagine you've got a client and they're in a really toxic work environment. Their boss is very demanding, somewhat abusive, and maybe they are just continually getting a whole heap of pressure and a whole heap of stress from this particular boss. Okay, so they're going back into that work environment likely every single day. They're thinking about it every single day. And what we know is that when you're thinking about, when you're re-experiencing stress, it actually causes more central sensitization. It causes the perception of pain signals in the brain to be far stronger, and it reinforces these emotional origins. So often what we find is that if clients have an emotional origin of pain up the top here, if that thing is being re-triggered again and again and again and again due to their lifestyle and due to a particular situation that they're dealing with, their pain is going to continue. The amount of times that I've seen people overcome chronic and persistent pain, let go of 20 plus years of pain just by understanding that they're repeating a stress cycle in their life, whether it be a real situation like the job and the toxic work environment, or if it's just something that a repeated thought that they're having again and again. These can always cause more pain. So, for example, if they're worried about their job, if they're worried about finances, if they are worried about the relationship they're in, all of these things can reinforce these 2 patterns. Okay, and so the last reason here, this one's a little bit controversial, but what it is, it's a phenomenon known as secondary gains. Okay, so a secondary gain is when a client gets a particular benefit out of being in pain. Okay, so this isn't everyone, by the way. If you have clients that are in pain, not all of them are going to have secondary gains. If you're someone as a practitioner or non-practitioner and you're in pain, I'm not saying that you have secondary gains. Okay, this is a small percentage of people, but it's something that needs to be addressed. So a secondary gain is when you essentially get some form of benefit from being in pain. So for example, years ago, when I was practicing as a chiropractor, I had a client who used to see me somewhat regularly or pretty regularly, like every fortnight or something along those lines. And they never paid for anything because they were on like injury cover. They had a particular injury and they were getting paid because they couldn't work. And so this is a really common thing, and it's also very tricky to help people move through. For example, if a client is getting paid to be in pain, if their financial livelihood is dependent on them being in pain, if they're getting payouts from the government, from work cover, from anything along those lines, unconsciously or subconsciously, they don't actually want to get out of pain because they're going to no longer receive those payments. And if their financial livelihood is dependent on those, they're going to unconsciously sabotage any efforts to get out of pain. Okay, and this is, no one wants to be in pain, but unconsciously some people do want to be in pain because they get some form of benefit from that. Okay, so this is an example of secondary gain. So no matter what you do, it can be very difficult to help them overcome that and help them to move through that. So secondary gains here is the fourth reason. I actually had a cool story of secondary gains growing up. I used to have so many injuries as a kid, as a teenager. And I distinctly remember breaking my leg in high school. And I remember just getting so much attention. I remember all the kids were coming up at school and riding on my cast. And this was my first taste of a secondary gain. Otherwise, I didn't get too much attention. I found that kind of felt a bit disconnected with my peers. But then when I broke my leg, all of a sudden I had all this attention. So that's a simple example of a secondary gain. Okay, so again, not every client that you deal with has secondary gains. It's just a small percentage of people, but it's something you need to keep in the back of your mind. All right, so these are the top 4 reasons why your client's pain comes back again and again and again. And if you want to become exceptional, if you want to really get results for your clients when everyone else has failed, if you want to start to become really in demand and be known as the kind of person that gets results for people with chronic pain, persistent injuries, and mystery, unexplainable pain, mastering these 4 things is a crucial step. So if you want to learn more about this, the best place to get started is to go to mindbodymasters.com/guide, just GUIDE, and that will give you access to a free PDF document which has all the emotional origins of musculoskeletal pain. So by using this guide, you can start to ask the right questions, you can start to identify some of the emotional stress-based patterns of chronic pain and persistent injuries, and you can really start to help your clients heal and move beyond those things. So I hope you found this episode useful. Just be sure to leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. And yeah, this episode has given me some great ideas for some upcoming episodes. So be sure to stay tuned on that, because my mission here is really simple: is I want to empower healthcare professionals like you to become truly exceptional and to have the skills and the know-how of how to get results for those clients who have tried everything. Because those people out there, they really need you. They need practitioners who are willing to look beyond the surface of their symptoms and find true and lasting solutions. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening this far. What that tells me about you is that you're one of the good ones. You're one of the good guys. You're one of the good practitioners out there who really does care about getting results for your people. And for that, I thank you, and your clients and your patients thank you. So be sure to stay tuned, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Take care.